Welcome, friend. Thank you for joining me. JT here. Today I'm talking about a very special product, and that is the Apple MacBook Pro, the M1 Pro. Now, I've been using PCs and Macs for decades, going all the way back to 1984, but I've always used a PC for my laptop, going all the way back to about 1988 when I got my first laptop. It's always been a PC, and I've wanted to migrate over to the Apple Macs, but I've never quite been satisfied that they really were hitting the nail on the head. I felt, particularly since Steve Jobs passed away, that there's been a bit of a lull and Apple's gotten further behind from the rest of the market in the area of laptops. But that really changed with this particular product. And what I've been frustrated with for years is that Apple seemed to be out of touch with their market. They've been prioritizing above everything else lighter, thinner products for many, many years, and that seemed to be the highest priority, sacrificing power, performance, and battery life to thinner and lighter. And they reached a point at which that really became counterproductive, I think, to my needs and most of the industry, to where we were sacrificing so much performance and battery life in order to have a thinner, lighter product that it really didn't serve the needs of most people in the market. But Apple has really turned that around with this product. And so this is the first time I've ever switched over my laptop from a PC to a Mac. Prior to this, I've been using a Dell XPS 13 for 6 or 7 years, different ones, and I felt it was on the leading edge in terms of having a 4K touchscreen experience, lightweight, good battery life, good performance. It just met all of my needs really well. But this product really changed my mind. It's obvious that Apple started paying attention to its customer base, and with this product they switched the priority from being thinner and lighter to a much more balanced experience, to where we now have the M1 processor, which is phenomenal. I'm so glad Apple changed over to their own silicon. And then particularly the M1 Pro and the M1 Max are just off the charts in terms of performance, while also being very energy efficient. And so we get good battery life with great performance. The only real complaint I have about this product is that it does not have a touchscreen. And so we know that Apple and their ecosystem, if you want touchscreen, you go with the iPad. If you want a laptop experience, you go with one of the MacBook products, the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro. And, I've come to realize that I'm ready to make that sacrifice. Previously, I've had a touchscreen laptop for years, but I felt that whereas I once thought that a touchscreen on a laptop was really essential, I seldom used a stylus. And really the only time I was using the touchscreen was to make menu selections with my finger. And still I have difficulty occasionally wanting to touch the screen in order to make a menu selection. But I really came to realize that once I thought it was quintessential to have a touchscreen on a laptop, that's no longer the case. And particularly if you're willing to have both an iPad and a MacBook, that's a bit difficult for me. I like to carry my laptop with me to work every day and pretty much everywhere I go, just to have it in the backpack all the time, so that if I want to write or work on a website or now edit a video. I've been editing all of my videos on my PC workstation with a 12-core i9 beast with a 60 terabyte RAID hardware RAID array and such. And so that has been my only editing station since I've started YouTube and going back even further. But I now have the performance characteristics that I need to edit my 4K YouTube videos on the go, and I am super stoked about that. That is a game changer for me because no longer do I have to be fixed to my workstation to be editing. I can shoot a lot of my footage in the studio and then go edit whenever and wherever I want. And so that's been great. And so I made the choice that I'm going to forego the touchscreen. I still have my iPad. I might be getting rid of it. I don't like the thought of carrying the weight and bulk of a MacBook Pro and an iPad around with me in my backpack every day. So I'm going to do some experimenting and see if I can get rid of that iPad in terms of my daily computing needs. I would say I do like the touchscreen experience when I'm editing photos, when I'm using Lightroom. That is particularly helpful, and Photoshop, and even some in After Effects. I find that a very useful experience to be able to touch and do some precision editing, graphics, and animation. But I'm hopeful that I can get away from the iPad. I've had the iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard, and I've been really happy with it. I will say that I'm hopeful that Apple will really make a concerted effort to unify the iOS and the Mac experiences now that they're both running on the same chipset for the most part. Will certainly be there in 2022. There's this great opportunity for there to be a much more unified experience as you move from an iPad or an iPhone over to a Mac or a MacBook Pro. The ability to carry your applications and your data seamlessly between those platforms, I think we're in a great opportunity here where we can see some unique things happen. And I really hope Apple takes advantage of that opportunity and we see, instead of two totally distinct operating systems, that there is a bit of merging so that I can more easily move my applications between those platforms. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I really hope Apple takes advantage of that opportunity and serves the needs of their user base in some way along those lines. This is obviously heavier than previous MacBook Pros, but not significantly. The weight is very manageable on the 14-inch. The speakers, the audio is really good. The display is phenomenal. I was really torn between the 16-inch and the 14-inch because I really wanted that 16-inch display to be able to do editing of videos and photos and such. But when I actually went to an Apple store and saw the footprint of the 14 and 16, I realized there's just no way I'm lugging that 16-inch around with me all day, every day, because it's much heavier. It's a pound heavier, quite a bit larger footprint, and I just was unwilling to carry that around with me. Now, at first, I was planning on buying the 16-inch M1 Max and full throttle, get the maximum computing power that I could. But then after realizing that 16-inch was just so big, I once had a 16-inch Dell, and back many years ago, and learned to live with that experience. But I have a much more mobile lifestyle today, and I just can't make that compromise. So then I decided to go down to the 14-inch, and I originally wanted the 14-inch with the M1 Max processor, so I originally ordered that. But then after I read a lot of reviews of people who were experiencing that, they just said the thermal dynamics of the 14-inch were not sufficient to cool that Max processor. That Max processor is quite a bit larger and runs more wattage and basically just consumes enough electricity that it was heating up the body. And I saw some reviews that said it was running 10 degrees warmer than the Pro. So once I did a bit of research, discovered that to be the case, I canceled my M1 Max 14-inch and ordered instead a 14-inch M1 Pro. And I'm really pleased. Most of the time I'm working with it, I don't feel hardly any heat at all, certainly not hot. If I am rendering videos, it will heat up some, but it's still workable. So I feel like they have blended together a lot of elements. The screen is gorgeous, the Magic Keyboard I really like the experience on, the thickness is just right, the battery life is great. So I just couldn't be happier that Apple has finally listened to the market, has designed a MacBook Pro that is really pro level, and yet it has all the dynamics that I'm looking for. They've increased the ports, they brought back the HDMI, we've got the old MagSafe charger that I really like, we've got an SD card slot so I can transfer my media as soon as I finish shooting my audio and video. I can transfer them over to this. The base price on this starts at around $2,500. I've yet to ever have a laptop that delivered in so many ways as this does, and I'm just super pleased with it. I still think that this MacBook Pro, the M1 Pro and Max, is such a groundbreaking product. If you are thinking about pulling the trigger, even if you've been a PC laptop user and have thought about switching to the Mac, I think this is the best laptop on the market in the known universe. Now, if it is a multiverse, now I can't speak to all those other universes in the multiverse, but in this known universe, I think this is the best laptop the industry has to offer. Well, I hope this has been insightful, helpful, informative, or amusing. I would love to get your thoughts on what are you planning to do in terms of Apple's product line, the M1. Have you upgraded already? What's your experience been like? Or are you planning on doing that? Are you going to go ahead and purchase this, or are you going to wait until new products are released in 2022? I'd like to know. Well, hey, thanks so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, consider doing that. Like the video if you'd like to. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, spread the love.